Hello, I'm Dr. Brian Hainline, Chief Medical Officer for the NCAA, and I'm here to talk to you about concussion in football. We know that football is an aggressive, rugged, contact sport, and as such, there are sometimes players who become injured. As an official, you have the ability and the right to call a medical timeout when you see an injury. So today I want to walk you through concussion, which is a brain injury and which is a condition that justifies the calling of a medical timeout. The purpose isn't to make you an expert in concussion. The purpose isn't to make you an expert in making a medical diagnosis. It's just to increase your sensitivity to and awareness of this medical condition. So first of all, what is a concussion? Well, this is the 43rd working definition of concussion. It seems a little complicated at first, but I'm going to break it down for you. So we see that concussion is a change in brain function. It follows a force to the head. It may be accompanied by temporary loss of consciousness. It's identified in awake individuals, and there are measures of neurological and cognitive dysfunction. So let's walk you through each one of these aspects of the concussion definition. So first of all, concussion is a change in brain function. What does that mean? It means that a concussed brain is not functioning normally. And the brain is what controls everything that we do, every thought, every movement that we have. So a change in brain function means that the athlete is not making good decisions or may not be making good decisions. And a change in brain function also importantly means that the brain may be vulnerable to more injury. Following a force to the head. What does that mean? Well, very often, people think that in order to get a concussion, you have to have a direct impact on the head. And for the most part, that's true, but we're going to talk about other scenarios. Another common misperception is that if someone's wearing protective headgear like a helmet, well, then they won't get a concussion. But that also is not true. So why does a concussion happen? And why does it involve a force to the head? Well, the brain is a very soft structure. It's almost like jello. And it's inside a rigid skull. So anytime there's a force to the head, whether directly or indirectly, the skull can move, the brain can move, and the brain will go against the rigid skull. That's the essence of why a concussion happens. All the helmet does is protect the skull from getting a fracture. It does not protect the brain against a concussion. So what are the types of forces that can happen to the head? Well, when two helmets collide, that's a setup for a concussion. Or if a knee goes into the helmet, or if someone falls to the ground and the helmet hits the ground. But there's another way you can get a concussion. Sometimes when someone is hit so hard in their belly region, their head can snap back forcefully, and even that violent movement of the head, which is a force to the head, can cause a concussion. Now, may be accompanied by temporary loss of consciousness. It used to be thought that the only way someone could be diagnosed with a concussion is if that individual lost consciousness. But in fact, the vast, vast majority of concussions do not have loss of consciousness. So yes, of course, if you see a player who's unconscious, there may be a good reason to think that that player has a concussion. But that's not the only way to diagnose a concussion. And importantly, If someone's unconscious, that's a medical emergency, and it may be for some other cause other than a concussion. Identified and awake individuals. That's the hallmark. More than 90% of the concussions that you're going to see on a football field are in athletes who have always been awake. They don't lose consciousness. They have a force to the head. They remain awake, but something else is off. And what is that something else? So that's where the last part of the definition comes in. Measures of neurological and cognitive dysfunction. Well, what does that mean? Well, let me just take you through some of the bullet points of the hallmark of what a concussion is. The athlete appears dazed or confused. So you see that the athlete took a hit to the head, and you look at that athlete and he just seems off. It seems like his eyes just aren't able to focus. Or the athlete might be confused. He's walking to the wrong side of the field. He's going to the opponent's side. He's going to the sideline but isn't sure why. So the athlete appears confused. Or the athlete might even be uncertain of where he is, what the score is. He just doesn't even know what's going on at the moment. Another hallmark is that the athlete appears almost drunken. He's a little clumsy. He's getting up and he seems off balance, almost as if he's going to fall down again, or his teammates come to hold him for support. That drunken, clumsy walk, it's classic for a concussion. The athlete might be slow to respond to questions. You go over, you ask a couple of questions, and he just doesn't seem to be able to respond to you appropriately. Of course, one of the hallmarks is losing consciousness, but as we discussed, that's more uncommon. The most common thing you're going to see is that sort of clumsy, drunken walk and someone who appears dazed and confused. So these are the hallmarks of what you're going to see in concussion. And again, this is just to help guide you, to make you more aware, to make you more sensitive to the fact that when someone has a hit to the head, or when someone's head is jarred or moves forcefully, that athlete might be concussed. And if you sense that that athlete might be concussed, that's a justification for immediately calling a medical timeout. Thank you.